start this video by acknowledging that I'm a big fan of science. I read a lot of science, I teach about science, and in fact, science is one of the main focal points of this YouTube channel. I would go as far as to say that science is one of the greatest achievements of humans in coming to understand the world around us. So I want to go on record by saying I am a fan of science, and yet I think there are some questions that science, by its very nature, simply cannot answer. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 of those, and I'm excited to hear what you think about the arguments I give for them. Here's the first question that I don't think science can completely answer for us. What should I do? I'll say that again. I don't think that science can answer the question for us, what should I do? In other words, what's the ethically right thing for me to do? Why not? Well, science's job is to describe the way the world is, and it does that phenomenally well. But while science can give us a very good and accurate description of the way the world is, it can't tell us what we should do about that. Here's just 3 examples. Science might lead you to be convinced that climate change is a real thing. But what science can't do is tell you what you should do about that. If climate change is real and science discovers that, well, then it just has discovered something true about the world, and that's where its investigation ends. If there's anything we should do about that, that's the realm of politics and ethics and religion, and that's what can tell us what to do about those facts. Second, science might tell us that certain animals such as chimps and dogs and cats, feel pain. It's a fact that for a long stretch in history, we didn't think that those animals felt pain, but eventually we were convinced that they did. That fact alone, though, which again, science can teach us. It can teach us that we respond to painful stimuli in certain ways. But that fact alone doesn't tell us anything about what we should do in response. Now, many of us would think that, well, because dogs and cats and chimps feel pain, there's certain things we shouldn't do to them. We shouldn't cause them unnecessary harm or something like that. But at that point, science is not the thing that's giving us the answer to that. Science is not telling us what we should do. Rather, ethics or religion or some other kind of ethical thinking is stepping in order to tell us what we should do about this scientific fact that we've learned that animals feel pain. Third example, science might tell me that the lack of access to clean drinking water decreases the lifespan of people, right? So I might learn by looking at different groups of people and the access to clean drinking water that they have, that's a really important factor leading to their longevity and even their quality of life. That fact, however, doesn't tell me that I should do anything about that. Now, again, many of us would think there is something we should do about that, given that lack of access to good drinking water causes undesirable outcomes, means that we probably should step in and try and do something, try and help get people without access to clean water, get them access to that water. But at that point, we've stepped out of the realm of science and into the realm of ethics, into the realm of religion. We've gone from describing what the world is, in this case, that the world is such that lack of access to good drinking water leads to poor health outcomes, and into the realm of ethics, and we started to say what we should do. So generally what I want to suggest is that this question, which I take it all of us think is a really, really important question, what should I do, is one that science can maybe direct us towards which kind of questions we should ask about that. So science might be the thing that directs us towards thinking about questions, ethical questions about access to clean drinking water. But science cannot itself answer those questions. Why? Science is concerned with describing the way the world is, not with describing what we should do about it. When it comes to answering what we should do about the world, that realm, those questions lie in the realm of ethics, of religion, and of things like that. All right, second question that I don't think science can answer for us. The first question was, what should I do? The second question that I don't think science can answer for us is, why is it beautiful? Now think back to an experience of beauty you've had recently or in the past, a particularly profound one. You might think, for me, I'm a big fan of Rembrandt, the painter. So you might think of Rembrandt or a favorite painter of your own, or you might think of a Shakespeare sonnet or a really beautiful poem, or you might think of a Mozart sonata or some other music that you really, really enjoy. And think about what makes that beautiful. Why is that beautiful? Now notice that science can start to help us answer that question. So science has something to say here. For example, Neuroscience had discovered that our perception of faces that are particularly symmetrical tends to be cross-culturally pleasing. So when you look at a particular painting and you think it's very beautiful, part of what might be going on is that the faces in that painting are particularly symmetrical, and we've got good scientific reason to think that that's a pleasing thing for human eyes to look at. Likewise, you might learn that there's certain qualities of the Shakespeare sonnet that just sound good to the human ear. So science maybe could discover that for you. Same thing with any other experience that we have of beauty. Science will no doubt be able to tell us something about why we find that beautiful. But I don't think it could ever tell us the whole story. Why? In order to fully understand why I find a Rembrandt painting beautiful or a Shakespeare sonnet beautiful, I need more than just the scientific story. I need to know about my own cultural, personal, social, religious history. I need to know about all the experiences that I've brought with me to that work of art. And most importantly, I need to know about those experiences themselves. What's going on in my brain chemistry tells me part of the story, maybe about why I react to a painting in a certain way. But the full story of why I find something beautiful doesn't just have to do with what's going on in my brain or even what's going on in my body. It rather has to do with my experiences themselves. And that's something that science can tell me maybe some of the reason why I'm having those experiences, but it can't tell me all about those experiences themselves. Moreover, it can't tell me about all the social, cultural, historical, religious factors that go into my perception of beauty. So that's the second question I want to suggest that science can't answer for us. It can't tell us why I find something beautiful. It can tell us part of the story, but not the full story. All right, so the first question that I don't think science can answer, it can't tell us what we should do. Second question, I don't think that science can tell us why something is beautiful. And the third question, I don't believe that science can tell us whether or not God exists. And here's why. God, by definition, is something supernatural. God is something that exists over and above nature. That's just what supernatural means. Science, by contrast, by definition, is concerned with the natural. When science looks out on the world, when it tries to describe the way the world is, it's concerned explicitly and specifically and by definition with the natural world. Well, what does that mean? It means that if science tries to weigh in on the existence of God, whether it tries to weigh in on God existing or God not existing, by definition, it has overstepped. Science is concerned with giving us the best description it can of the natural order. But God, by definition, is something supernatural. So I think then that this question, does God exist, a huge question, one of the most important questions that we can ask, in my opinion, is something that science actually can't really weigh in on. Now, science can maybe take a perspective on it. You might think that science can show us the great order that exists in the cosmos, and that's a reason for believing in God. Or you might think that science shows us just how much suffering there is in the world, and that gives us a reason against believing in God. But I don't think science can directly tell us whether or not God exists, either in the affirmative or denying the existence of God, because by definition, it's going to overstep when it does. It's going to take a discipline that's fundamentally concerned with the natural and try and weigh in on the supernatural. So those are the three questions I think that science can't answer for us. First question, what should I do? Second question, why is it beautiful? Third question, does God exist? Notice that those three questions are really important questions. So if science can't answer them, that means that for all the greatness that science has given us, and again, I am a huge fan of science, but for all that science can do, it faces some severe limitations in answering some of the biggest questions facing us as human beings. All right, those are my arguments. Let me know in the comments what you thought of them. Thanks a lot for watching.